going on? It's your girl, Artistic Genius, and we are back with Say Word Wednesdays Couch Conversation. And we are here with our lovely guest, Deandra Wright.
Hi.
So tell us a little bit about who you are.
Who am I? So my name is Deandra Wright, and I'm originally I was born in Houston, Texas, grew up in Baltimore. I like to start with that. And then I moved to Ohio. And I came to Ohio because I was majoring in communications and advertising, and that's kind of like information as to like who I really am and like my creativity side. And so once I graduated, that was about 2 years ago now, I came to Columbus, and what have I been doing in Columbus? I've been working. So I work for a university where I get to do like a lot of event planning and things like that, working with youth. And really just who I am as a person is just like creative, determined. I'm definitely like a go-getter, but also I'm a Capricorn, so I feel like that comes out in my personality of just like how I carry myself. Yeah.
Okay. All right. So I'm going to ask you a series of questions. This is not going to be like a hot take, but it's definitely going to be a few questions just to get to know you on the personal side and the poetry side. You know, you shared a little bit about your hometown and what brought you to Columbus. So I want to talk about like the identity piece of who you are and the impact. Like, how do you want your art or poetry to be perceived?
I would say, I would say impactful and powerful. Like, I think a lot of my pieces are also just not even that, but like about Black history, and they incorporate songs and music, and so some of them are like fun and lighthearted, and then some of them are more serious because that's like what I'm going through. But also sometimes I just write about things that are going on around me. Like, not every piece is about me, and sometimes it might seem that way because I'm saying I in the poem, but it's actually not about me at all.
So just sharing other people's perspectives and experiences. Love that. So like, what are some of your goals, like being in Columbus? You've been here for some years now. What's like your goal for poetry, and like how far do you want to take it if you have a goal?
I would say I feel so new to poetry. Like, I feel like when I started was like in 8th grade, during class and things like that, and me and my friend were just writing little poems and sending them back and forth to each other. And then I took a long break, and then I didn't pick it back up until like I was in college, my like 2 years there, and then I went to like different events, and I feel like that's really where my love grew back into poetry, is like going to events and speaking at them, gaining my confidence, things like that. And so where I want my poetry to go is just to continue developing my style, to continue. I've also started Dynamite events, so that features different poets and different open mic nights, which is so exciting because I love hosting events, and I've got like, I feel like the mindset for it of like, this is every detail that needs to occur, and I'm just such a planner, so yeah.
And you also have another business that involves like content creation and highlighting other businesses and other poetry events in Columbus. So I think that's a great merge of like what you do, and it really gives back to the community. So tell us about that.
Yes, so my other endeavor, or like my other hobby, is D Wright Travels, and so I post like different fun places to go. And of course, a part of that is like the different open mics that I go to, and I love showcasing like Black businesses. So of course, that's a part of like the poetry spaces that I'm in, and talking about that experience. But I really love that platform. It's just really started to take off like this year, which has been great, with all the opportunities that I've gotten from different businesses about collabing and things like that. And I really am just like a secret videographer, so it's fun editing the videos and taking them, and it really pushes me to be more confident and out there.
Yeah, and being monetized too helps, right? I told you he was gonna get there. Yeah, so that's super dope. Let's talk about some challenges that you faced like along your journey as an artist.
Some challenges. Okay, so I would say the challenges is definitely like not consistency. And I think that's the main thing for me, like the consistent drive to keep writing and keep coming up with new topics, because I think a lot of times my poetry is inspired sometimes just by what I'm going through, and if like I'm just not in like that slump,
Yeah.
then I don't have anything to say. But I think what's beautiful is like to still attend events, and then I get that spark again, and I'm like, okay, let me continue writing. Or I'll be at an event and I'll think of something and I'll start writing. There's also like different writing circles, and I love those because they'll give you a prompt, and that'll help with consistency.
Yeah, so would you say that like seeing other poets perform like inspires you to like go back home and write? Because sometimes I get that feeling like when I see somebody perform, I'm like, dang, that piece was good, I need to go write something. So would you say that?
Especially sometimes like when you hear a poem and you're like, I was already working on something like that, and now I need to get back to that topic specifically. I think I definitely feel that.
Okay, that's good. Yeah, so going into like the inspiration and influence of like poetry, like who are some poets that or artists that you feel inspired by?
Okay, I would say that question has always been hard. Like I've even been asked that question when it comes to like in my life, who inspires me, and I would be like, I don't know.
Yeah.
But I think it's just because I take inspiration from everyone, like my community, so everybody is impactful to me. And then I'll just take like this little bit and I'll be like, okay. But I think there are just so many amazing poets in Cleveland and Columbus that I'm just like, I hear something or I hear their flow, or like even just with like bars. I would say like with thinking about like, okay, I need to make my vocabulary more complex and like really try to not just say the same words over and over again. Like, yeah,
that's dope. I think I experienced some of the same feelings like when I'm thinking about poets who are inspiring to me. I feel like the community of poets here inspire me, or wherever I go, but also have those like OG poets like Sonny Patterson that I feel like I used to study her work and just be so inspired and amazed at like what she can do. So and happy Women's History Month as well. So
yes.
are there any women in your personal life that have inspired you or just pushed you to be who you are today?
I would definitely say my friend Jo Rose.
Oh.
Yes, she is like one of my early poetry friends, and she's definitely encouraged me. I'll send her different pieces and stuff like that, and we'll bounce ideas off, and I really feel like she believes in me and like pushes me to keep going, and yeah. I love her poetry as well.
Yeah, we're gonna have to get Jill Rose on the couch conversation. Yeah. So when it comes to writing, because every poet doesn't have to be a performance poet, right? But you do perform it, and sometimes you may take breaks to where you're just writing. So what does your writing process look like? Let's talk about that. What does your writing process look like?
So as I previously mentioned, a lot of it is like attending different writing circles and getting a prompt. I would say also my poetry like writing style comes from like late nights. I'm just doing nothing or in my feelings, and something pops into my head and I start typing it out. I definitely use my notes app. That's my go-to. I've definitely tried to like write out poetry and stuff like that, but it's just like I'm always scribbling. So it's like I need to be able to delete it and then work through it. And then I'm very much also like auditory learner and with my poetry. So I literally say it out loud as I'm writing it and revise. So a lot of my poetry is definitely written to be said out loud.
Okay. Now this is a spicy question. Would you say that you are a revenge poet?
Revenge poet.
And what I mean by that is like, you said that a lot of your writing inspiration will come from something that's going on in your life, or like just being in your feelings. Like, do you feel like that's how you get revenge, is like with your writing? Because I feel like that's a part of me, low key.
I wouldn't call it revenge. I think like for me it's healing, you know, and it's just expression. Like I feel like sometimes it is like, okay, well I'm getting these feelings off my chest, and it might be hard for someone, but I wouldn't say it's revenge. I feel like revenge is like backstabbers. You're like, you know, when you like attack, and it's not an attack on that person. I think a lot of times like when I say my poems, that person's not even in the room.
Right.
So I would say it's definitely just about my feelings. And I think even just with thinking through my pieces, I pull from like different, like a lot of the times poems aren't about just one person.
Yeah, of course.
It's about multiple people and the multiple experiences that I've had with this. It might stem from it, an interaction with someone, but it's not solely about them.
Right. Yeah. Okay. So if you could write a poem to your younger self, what would you title it?
To my younger self, I'm trying to think of the word. Oh, I would title it Resilient. I think I've had like a lot of different experiences and I just kept going. Being a Black woman in this world, you are going to be tried so many times and
every day
put down. And so the little girl, she just needed to know that she's resilient and she's always going to be resilient. And she's got her ancestors to thank for that. And I definitely feel like I've triumphed over so many different obstacles in my life. And yeah.
Do you still talk to her and tell her that she's resilient in times where, yeah, hey.
That's sweet. Do I tell myself I'm resilient? Or
specifically your inner child?
My inner child. No, I don't know. Sometimes I do take a pause and I'm like, wow, like I'm really accomplishing this. I don't think I always necessarily like tie it into like childhood me and things like that, but I definitely should do that more.
Yeah, I think that's dope. I think that's become a part of my healing process and also like my poetry journey. I think it's just like making sure that I tap into my inner child, not just the things that went wrong, but also the things that went right, and like really like pulling from that that energy. I feel like that shows up in my work a lot as well. So when was your first feature?
My first feature was at Say Word. Yes. So that was my first feature here in this building, and I was so excited. I was so nervous too, but I was really like practicing.
I didn't feel like you were nervous at all.
I was nervous.
Yeah,
but it was exciting.
And I can't remember, that was 2024 or was that last year? I want to say that might have been 2024, like when we were just.
I think
starting
it was.
Okay.
But it was like it was like January, December.
Right, okay.
So
yeah, because you were on there with Christian, right? It was it was a red flyer. I don't remember what month that was, but that was a good lineup. Yeah, I think you did a great job.
Thank you.
So you already talked about how long you've been doing poetry, how it came about. So really it's just like the last piece of this is, before I ask the last question, just talk about like what you see happening with poetry in Columbus. Like I know you have Dynamite events, but is there anything else you can see like on a larger scale when it comes to poetry, or any organization that you would like to be involved in to support what you're doing?
I think there's so many different like pockets of poetry going on in Columbus, and so I definitely want to be a part of like any type of experience where I can help promote that platform, but also like promote my voice and my poetry. What was the question?
Just if you would want to collaborate with any organizations that kind of, are aligned with what you're already doing.
I'm open to collaboration. Yeah. I don't think there's currently like an organization that I'm not open to. Yeah.
Do you feel supported within the community and everything that you're doing?
I would say so. I think with the first Dynamite events, like it was so many poets in the room, and I was just so thankful because I was nervous.
Yeah,
I was nervous, especially with it coming off of like a snowstorm. I was like, are people gonna come? But a lot of poets walked in the room and they said something, and that made me just like so joyful.
Yeah, and I'm proud of you for stepping out there, because it's not easy. Hosting events or putting them together is not an easy thing, and it's like if you can, like you said, have that resiliency and that consistency, it's gonna be successful because you're continuing to do it. So kudos to you for making that happen for the community. So my last thing is, if you don't have anything else to add, is if you could say a word, and you can look directly in the camera. If you could say a word to an aspiring poet or artist, what would that word be? Advice, whatever you got to give to that person that is looking up and needing that.
just keep going and keep growing. Keep working on your craft. And you know, remember like your first poem or like why you started. Think about like who you are as a poet. And really just try to hone in on that, but continue to grow it, continue to learn from others. Don't just be stagnant.
That was Couch Conversations, episode 6 with Deandra Wright. Make sure you follow her on social media. What's your Instagram name?
So I have D Wright Travels, and that is DWRIGHT Travels, and Dynamite Events with 2 S's at the end.
And we are at Say Word Wednesdays. Say Word WEDS on Instagram, and the same way on YouTube. Make sure you subscribe to our YouTube channel. This episode will be dropping soon. We out.